Have you ever judged someone just by how they look? A man sat in the corner no one wanted. Old shirt, worn out shoes, invisible to everyone. Until one day, a new employee said it out loud. Someone like you will never make it far. But what no one knew was, the man he looked down on was the one about to change his life forever.
My name is Taidy. I'm not the one in this story. I'm just watching. This cafe is in the middle of the city, where people walk fast, talk fast, and live fast. But strangely, nobody seems to really know where they're rushing to. Every morning, I sit in the same place, at the same table, in the same corner, because I like to watch people. Sometimes, what people don't say is clearer than what they say. Everyone here seems to be in such a hurry. Employee, in a hurry, but we don't know where they're rushing to. Then I noticed him. A man sitting in an unused corner, near the trash can, near the back door, closest to what most people try to avoid. Other tables are full of noise, but his table is quiet. He never complains, never asks to change seats, as if he knows that the world doesn't provide equal seating for everyone. And maybe the person sitting in the worst corner isn't the most worthless, after all. Why did he choose to sit there? A customer. That corner. Nobody wants to sit there. In this city, no one says directly that they're insulting anyone, but everyone does. He ordered the smallest coffee. The order was short, simple, and clear. The man. Hot Americano. No sugar. Every time he ordered coffee, he would say, "Thank you." The employee. Yes. The tone was polite, clear, no bargaining, no requests for anything extra, as if he knew exactly how much he should ask for. His tone was unnecessarily polite, in a place where politeness isn't always reciprocated. The man. Cash, please. The employee. Avoiding eye contact. Cash. He placed the money neatly. The coins were lined up perfectly. The banknotes were folded neatly, as if the money had its own dignity. Some employees accept the money without looking at the recipient's face, as if receiving a thing, not an intention. But every time he received his coffee, he would smile. A smile that wasn't meant to be seen, but also not hidden. I began to wonder what someone who can still smile in this kind of world has been through. Or perhaps he doesn't smile because the world is kind, but because he chooses to. It doesn't have to be as cruel as the world. One day, I overheard a group of new employees talking. Quietly, but sharply. Min, laughing softly. "Look at that guy. He looks like he's from another world." A female employee replied, "Don't speak so loudly. He might hear." Some words don't need to be spoken aloud to make others feel insignificant. I sat not far away, close enough to hear, far enough for no one to notice. And perhaps that's the distance that allows us to see a person's true nature most clearly. Min shrugged. So what? People like that are used to it. I sat listening. The coffee in my hand began to taste bitter, without any sugar. Min continued. If he failed like that, it means he must have failed before. The word failure was spoken too easily, as if it were just an ordinary word, not something that could have destroyed someone's life completely. The coffee in my hand remained the same, but the taste had changed. Sometimes the bitterness doesn't come from the coffee, but from what we hear, we can't do anything about it. That man didn't answer anything. He just picked up a small notebook and wrote something in it. Min glanced over. "You still have the nerve to sit here writing?" Silence. No answer. It was as if the outside world couldn't disturb his inner world. No argument, no self-defense. And that only made the insult louder in the silence. I was beginning to understand that some people don't just insult, they want others to belittle them so that they themselves appear superior. And at the same time, some people don't need to say anything at all to maintain their own worth. One afternoon, a former employee named Owie accidentally dropped a tray. The sound of the tray falling echoed, and the entire shop fell silent. Glasses shattered, coffee spilled. Every pair of eyes turned to look. But what hurt more than the sound of the shattering glass was the soft laughter from some tables. Owie stood still, as if time had stopped. Owie murmured, "They're definitely going to deduct my salary." Min immediately spoke up, firmly. "You have to take responsibility, P. The work has to be done to a certain standard." And the word standard was spoken without a shred of mercy. Then the man stood up. There were no words of comfort, no kind words, just action. He knelt down, carefully picking up the glass shards one by one, slowly, carefully, and deliberately, without fear of cutting himself. I saw a little blood seeping out, but he didn't stop. As if the pain was less important than helping someone to avoid feeling any worse. Awie's voice trembled. "Please don't do it. You'll get hurt." The man replied softly, "Sometimes a little pain reminds us that we still feel." Min stood watching, speaking, not moving, not even feeling. One customer, whispering, "Doesn't he feel any pain?" And that is more terrifying than an insult. Because sometimes when someone feels nothing, it means they don't see the other person as a person. I looked at that scene and began to understand something. Dignity isn't in who falls, but in who still chooses to bend down and help without being asked. In the evening, the shop was packed. The sound of people ordering coffee, the hum of the brewing machine, the chatter, everything combined to create an invisible pressure. The boss spoke to Min. "Don't miss it. Table 7 is very important." Min nodded. "I've got this." And in moments like this, the words "I've got this" are often spoken too soon. A few minutes later, what should have been gone started slipping away. A dissatisfied customer. "This isn't the taste I ordered." Min immediately retorted, "That's the recipe." The word wrong wasn't acknowledged, but the word argument came back sooner than it should. And sometimes defending oneself too quickly unnecessarily makes problems bigger. Customer, "I've been eating here for 3 years, and it's never been like this." The atmosphere became tense. The boss tried to intervene, but Min interrupted. "Min, then I can make it again, but I'm not at fault." The words "I'm not at fault" came out like a wall. And the moment it was built, everything drifted further apart. The customer stood up. "You have no understanding of where the problem lies." The entire shop fell silent. Because at that moment, it wasn't just about coffee anymore. It was about attitude. An attitude of choosing to protect oneself rather than to understand others. And that was the mistake that overconfident people often fail to see. Just as things were about to get out of hand, the man said, "Let me try again." The same voice, but this time more firm. He stood up, unhurried, unhesitating, like someone who knew exactly what to do at this moment. Min frowned. "You're not involved." He turned, his gaze steady, making Min stop speaking. The man paused. I am involved, because everyone here is involved in the image of this shop. His words weren't loud, but they were powerful enough to silence all surrounding sounds.
He turned to the customer and took responsibility without being told. The man. I'll make a new one myself. If it's still not to your liking, I'll take full responsibility. The customer slowly sat down. The entire shop fell silent, a silence so profound that no one dared to interrupt. His hands were steady, his movements fluid. There was no arrogance, no haste, but everything was precise. Min whispered to her friend, acting all cocky. But no one laughed. Sometimes the best proof of oneself is not in words, but in action. When the coffee was served, the customer took a sip. Silence for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like a minute. No one moved. No one breathed heavily. Until the answer came. Client. This is it. What I'm familiar with. The voice softened. The tension slowly broke apart. And then, everyone began to see something. The unchosen one may not be worthless, but perhaps the one who never needed to prove themselves to anyone at all. The back of the shop started to empty. The hustle and bustle gradually faded. I approached him, with a question lingering in my mind. Taidy, do you know all the recipes for this shop? The man chuckled softly. Not all, but I remember some things well. Taidy, what? He thought for a moment. I remember how the customers want to feel. His answer was simple, but powerful enough to change my perspective. I remained silent. He continued. Some people don't come to buy coffee. They come to buy the feeling that they still exist. And perhaps what people want most is not something tangible, but to be seen. I asked again, and you? What do you want? The man paused for a moment. I used to want acceptance from the whole world. He stopped. But now, just not looking down on anyone is enough. His answer wasn't grand, but profound, deep enough to silence me. Because it wasn't the words of someone who still wanted it, but it was the words of someone who had already experienced loss and chose not to repeat the same mistake. I began to understand that some people don't change because he wants to be better, but because he has already seen his bad side. The shop door swung open. A staff member whispered, "The owner is here." And the moment he walked in, the atmosphere of the entire shop changed. Min, softly, why does the atmosphere feel so strange? It wasn't the sound, but his presence. Many pairs of eyes became wary. Words became softer. It was as if everyone knew that this moment was crucial. But what made everyone hold their breath wasn't the arrival of the owner, but what he did next. He walked straight towards the man and bowed slightly. Owner. Brother, I'm still using the methods you taught me. Min whispered, "What the hell is this?" Silence suddenly fell. It was as if the whole world was saying, "You've missed something." The owner turned around. This person is the one who created the entire system you use, from the coffee recipes to the way we talk to customers. Those words were like unlocking something that had been closed. Every pair of eyes changed instantly, not because they understood, but because they knew who he was. And that was the most terrifying thing.
We don't respect people because they are people, but because we know how much he's worth according to the system. I stood still and began to understand that sometimes what changes the way we treat others isn't our hearts, but the information we've just learned. Min stood frozen. His voice softened to the point of being barely audible. I'm sorry. The man looked at him, neither angry nor gentle. An apology is valuable when it comes before the damage. The words, once so simple, became so heavy they were almost unbearable. The word sorry came out too late. And sometimes what we say later cannot undo what we have already done. The shop owner continued. We judge people by what they do when no one is watching. He turned to Min. And what you did? It was very clear. Silence returned. But this time, it was heavier. Because it wasn't ignorance. It was the truth. People aren't judged when they try to look good, but are seen when they think no one is watching. And that was what Min had unconsciously displayed.
Min tried to say, I can learn. The man replied, Of course. But some lessons are paid for with a chance. Those words weren't loud, but powerful enough to change a life. Min didn't argue anymore, not because he gave up, but because he understood. This isn't injustice, but it's the result of what he chose to be. I look at that picture and realize that sometimes the price of a single sentence isn't just a feeling, but it's a chance that will never come back. The next day, the cafe was still the same. The sounds, the tables, the smell of coffee. Everything was the same. But it wasn't the same. The man was still sitting in the same place, as if he didn't want to change. But the people around him were starting to change. People started sitting closer to him, little by little. Not because he had changed, but because the eyes of others had changed. One customer, quietly, May I sit here? The man, smiling, Yes, of course. I walked over to order coffee and chose to say something differently. Taidy, please do your best. I believe you can do it. The new employee was slightly surprised. Thank you. I don't know if he'll remember, but I know I chose to say that. Because maybe what determines whether we get a chance or not isn't when we stand in front of important people, but every time we think no one is important enough for us to respect. I slowly raised my coffee cup and asked myself, next time, how will I choose to look at people before the world has to teach me again? I still sit in the same corner, observing people the same way. But I've stopped thinking about what we base our judgments on. Instead, I'm more curious about what kind of people we really are in the eyes of the people we used to overlook. And the answer might be what silently determines our future, without us ever even realizing it.